learn to improve conversions and generate more leads with the video podcast at marketingoptimization.tv. Hi, and welcome to Marketing Optimization with Alex Designs. I'm your host, Alex Harris, and today we're talking with Sarah from digitalflash.com. How you doing, Sarah?
I'm doing great. Nice to meet you.
Great. You're from my favorite city, New York, and I'm excited to talk to you here today. Let's get started. What would be your definition of optimization, and why is it beneficial?
Sure. So I really think when you're thinking about optimization, it's really important to think about the end user. So whether you're optimizing for a product or a service or an ad campaign or an event, you really kind of want to think about who is going to be using that thing in the end, and how can you really make it the best for them? When I'm doing kind of any campaign or ad work or marketing work, I like to think like, are they going to have a good time with the website or the event or the social media campaign that I'm producing? Is it going to be enjoyable? And it really helps me think through maybe some of the challenges or the pitfalls ahead of time. And, I also really like to take myself out of the equation because I'm not always the core customer, although we all like to think about ourselves a lot. It's important to kind of think, hey, this core customer may live in the Midwest or they may live in the West Coast or not necessarily a girl from New York. So, important to take end user into consideration and really yourself out of the equation. And I also, kind of want to tell you a little bit about Digital Flash. When we started Digital Flash, what we were doing and what we were thinking about, really connecting consumers with on and offline experiences through social media, through campaigns, through event activations, that was very novel. But today, brand marketers are really expecting that kind of campaign or idea from a lot of their agencies. So we as marketers have had to optimize ourselves. So when I think about optimization, I think about it from, what I can do for my clients, but I also think about it what I have to do for my company as a co-founder and as somebody who constantly has to optimize their own marketing and their own plans for success.
Yeah, well, I think a lot of people are going to really resonate with this because more than likely you're starting your own agency or you're working in a agency and you eventually maybe want to start your own. So not only do you have to optimize your client sites, but you have to optimize your own experience. And in your case, you're bootstrapping, you're trying to hire the right people, only have the right amount of expenses, probably give presentations to get clients and try different things. So give us a little bit of background on the agency, how you guys got started, and maybe some of the hurdles that you've gone through.
Sure. So actually the way that I started the agency was through networking. I met my business partner actually through networking. And, that was an optimization in itself because, we kind of had one idea for the agency. And then as time went on, we had to optimize and kind of change tack and change direction. You kind of bring up bootstrapping. So, as a bootstrapped agency, we have constantly been paying attention to kind of the marketplace and trends that are out there, for pitching clients or for helping our clients, or also giving advice to other startups and other people who want to start agencies. We always say it's super important to pay attention to the trends in the marketplace, see what's going on out there. One big trend that I'm seeing a lot right now is kind of this shift from social media marketing to content marketing and to working with influencers. That's just been a discussion point that I've seen a lot kind of in the industry and, in the publications and in all the conferences I've been going, and also the work that my clients are asking from us. These influencers are, really the next distribution channel. So if you're thinking about how to optimize a campaign or how to optimize your own site, or your own work, you might want to even think about finding some influencers in your area, in your budget. You know, an influencer might just be somebody who's a local blogger that you know. As you get bigger budgets, you might want to think about some of these celebrity influencers that have, 2 and 3 million followers. Sometimes those come at a bigger cost, but they're definitely worth it when you want to kind of get a message out to a really big audience. They're really ultimately becoming the kind of new distribution channel, and a great way to kind of help optimize anything that you're doing and get your message out there. A kind of interesting tidbit that I read lately is that Facebook, a lot of agencies have been having some problems on Facebook with the kind of change in the algorithms and the change to the feed, and they're kind of not sure how to get their pages optimized. They're spending a lot of money on buying fans or buying ads because Facebook just isn't serving up their content the same way that they used to. So I read in DigiDay an article. You can look it up on DigiDay. It's all about how Facebook doesn't really see native advertising as an ad buy. So they're serving that up in the feed. So, a good way to optimize here would be, maybe work with a niche blogger, work with a niche publication, and come up with a great piece of content that talks about whatever it is that you're trying to sell or talk about. And that can show up in the feed in a way, and it's not cheating. It's sort of just getting around, some of the algorithm changes. And I think, that's a really great way that you could see how influencers are helping change a workflow and something that maybe you were doing differently in the past.
Yeah, finding the right influencer is a great marketing strategy, because you want to find ways to really get that leverage. How can you, connect with people who are going to take you, a lot further, a lot faster, really get up on that ladder, even further than you ever thought. And it's probably identifying with people that are already known. I know when I was starting my own agency, I was able to connect with, some of the initial thought leaders in the conversion optimization space. And now when I go to conferences and I tell people who I've done work for, it's like an immediate credibility boost, and people want to now do business with me, be on my podcast. So, you find people directly in your niche and find ways to connect with them, either do guest posts for them, tweet to them, maybe, interview them on your podcast, do free work for them if you could possibly use it in your portfolio. But there's great ways to really niche down. So it's hard to really find out who the right influencers are or the trends that are actually going on. So do you guys have a framework that you follow with your agents, your agency?
Yeah, sure. Research. I am a really huge component or proponent of research, and research is a big component of what I do. Flipping those words there. But yeah, research. I kind of have a joke with my business partner that I was definitely a spy in a past life. And she really worries sometimes about my use of social media and the web in general for research, because I can really kind of go deep in there, find a lot of like that deep data and spend a lot of time. So, yes, research is super important to us. I would recommend that when you're looking for influencers or, you're looking for any kind of information or conversation that could be useful to, your client or your own company, it's kind of important to start with a couple of influencers at first that are in your niche. Like you said, you went to conferences and you kind of found those thought leaders, and then maybe you started following them in Twitter, and then maybe you started making friends with them, and maybe you saw who they were following or what blogs that they were reading. And we actually did something similar when we were starting Digital Flash. So that's actually a tactic I learned from starting Digital Flash as well. But I do it the same way for the clients and the influencers that I'm trying to find for them. I might find one or two that are very influential in social media, start looking at their conversation organically, following a couple blogs or publications and see who they're talking about. follow those conversations. And then I really turn it over to the platforms. I think it's important to do your own homework first and find stuff organically. But then when you really want to find deeper information and get some analytics, especially because I think as a marketer, you really have to show numbers and, everybody wants to know what's the ROI and the ROE and all those R words. So we work with a bunch of different tech platforms for listening, for engagement, for sentiment, for click-through, pricing. I'm happy to share a couple with the audience if you'd like.
Yeah, let's dig into some of those tools to figure out exactly who to are the influencers and some of the top, I guess, content or social sharing aspects of your business.
Sure. So a great new tool that we've been working with is called Nexology. And they're basically a social listening tool and a kind of conversation. They're like conversation on steroids, basically. They produce word clouds. They kind of show how conversations are connected. They show who are the most influential people having those conversations. And it's a dashboard. They actually won one of the startup contests at South by last year. Oh, wow. So, really exciting for them. And they're out of Canada. We actually know them because we work in a co-working space, which is also a great way to find a lot of resources. So they work in our shared space in New York. And, we've been lucky enough to kind of be a beta tester and get to know the product, which also another great tip if you're kind of just starting out, make friends with people who have new products and can kind of let you beta test, and you could get in a little early if your budget doesn't permit you to kind of go with some of the bigger guys. Like Crimson Hexagon and Seismos are amazing, but they might not be something that a budget, your budget will be able to afford when you're kind of starting out. So Nexology is kind of a new one to the market, and it's very helpful for us for social listening and finding those influencers. We're also using Uberview, which is Hootsuite's new product, and we've really enjoyed Hootsuite for social listening. And Uberview is kind of now their analytics tool. They kind of heard from their community that they needed to get a stronger analytics tool, make something more visual, and Uberview's provided that. It's very design friendly, a lot of beautiful visuals, something that you can definitely give to your clients and they can understand when they're looking at it. And then just like contests, Iconosquare from Instagram is really great for contests. This company Pitched out of London. They're sort of a newer company that we've been working with. Niche is also a newer company. They actually just partnered with CAA, the talent agency, but they have a lot of influencers. I could kind of go on and on about the influencer platforms, so that might be a whole other podcast.
Well, yeah, these are, it's great to hear different tools because, obviously, people are all trying different things, but you have to try kind of what's really working for you. I know that I use buzzsumo.com a lot. It's just a site you go to, you enter a keyword or a domain name of, maybe something you think is your competition, and you can see what all the top content is being shared or tweeted or liked, and it kind of organizes different categories that way. So you can, if you want to do it on a more keyword basis, you can check out buzzsumo.com as well.
Cool. Yeah, Keyhole is a good, I think, kind of freemium one if you just want to look at a hashtag. Okay. You could just literally go to keyhole.com and type in the hashtag, and they'll give you 7 days history of the hashtag. Some of these other tools I'm talking about, what's beneficial about them is that they have the Twitter fire hose. So that's what you tend to pay more of a premium for. Some of these more freemium tools will only go 7 days back. But if you have a client that you need to go like 30 days back or even a year back, that amount of data is very costly, and Twitter has made that data a little harder to get to these days. So it's kind of come at a cost. So yeah, those tools, while they're sort of on the middle end, they still are, you're kind of paying for that greater flow of data than maybe like a Keyhole, which would just, give you 7 days.
Yeah. Now, I'm really curious, since you are doing, so much, social content marketing, are people doing a lot of A/B and split testing? And if you are, what's the process of doing that these days?
Yeah, sure. Definitely always recommend testing. I think it kind of goes back to what I said earlier about the end user and, not putting yourself as the customer. You really never know who your customer is. And even if the client has given you a brief and they say, oh, we're targeting millennials, or we're targeting hip and cool people, or we want to find people that live in New York, that may be their desired customer. And that's great. Everybody has, everyone has aspirations. But, A/B testing is really a way to see like who is your customer, who's really responding to your content, who should you really be targeting. And we had a recent experience with a headphones company that we're working with, and this was kind of fun. We were doing a lot of visual content around going to festivals and concerts and, putting really cool, hip, young people in all the imagery and a lot of hip music. And, we weren't getting the results we wanted. Right. And we were trying different times, sometimes we're doing it in the morning, sometimes at night. So, we really were trying a lot of different variables. And then we switched up that content and we started using sort of a more folk rock kind of guy. And all of a sudden the engagement spiked. And people were commenting and liking. And they were like, these bands are awesome. I love these guys. How do you guys even know about them? We love these guys. And, all of our assumptions were like, these are headphones. Headphones are cool. It's definitely what the younger generation is interested in. And we were sort of discounting these kind of legacy fans. But really, the legacy fans are the ones that are very engaged and they still love their music. So A/B testing is a must. And, kind of make sure that you test your assumptions, because I think you might be surprised sometimes with the results in a good way.
Yeah, well, absolutely. I mean, I believe a lot of agencies that I've seen, they don't test enough. They start with one campaign and they kind of blow it out with just starting. They're not iterating at smaller pieces. Try a piece of a campaign, on Facebook to a landing page. Make it really simple, get it out really quick, then test it. A lot of times, I know, especially with the bigger brands, it's like, wow, they have to. First of all, they're testing 4 months in advance in the wrong season, and they're and then they rush to redesign a website. Yeah. So what would you say to the average agency? How do you build a corporate culture of testing in that iterative process?
Sure. I mean, like a corporation, a brand, how would I tell a brand to test? Or
yeah, how do you buy them into actually testing or giving them ideas for future tests?
Oh, got it. Well, I think, it kind of all depends on your engagement with them and how much they trust you. Hopefully that you have a good enough relationship with them and they will take some of your advice. I think pilot programs are great. It's always nice, especially if they're trying like a new idea or a new theory. As digitally savvy as we think all marketers are today, or our population is, you do meet a lot of marketers who still are not comfortable with social media. They're still not comfortable with influencer marketing or content marketing. These are still kind of new ideas to them. So if you come to them and you say, oh, well, you have to spend $1 million for this to be successful, to get any brand lift, to get any engagement, that's going to scare them off. They are going to say, okay, well, that's great, but I need to go back to my board, or I need to show sales, or I need to show something. So I can't just throw $1 million at this. So if you can kind of come to them and say, look, we know that this is important to reach today's customer, but let us kind of prove to you that it is.
Yeah.
We're not going to tell you to spend $1 million right off the bat. Let's try and come up with some ideas where maybe we just do a contest to start, or we do a small sampling program where we get some bloggers to write a product review, or maybe we send bloggers to a conference to tweet on your behalf. So, I think it's really good to kind of come up with some baby steps for them before hitting them over the head with the really big campaign that you might want them to do. Even though that might give them the numbers and the success that they really want to see, I think they like to see that kind of incremental growth, especially if you're an agency starting out and you still have to kind of prove your own success metrics with them.
And, as you're doing this, I guess it comes down to really, paying attention to your competition in the right way, knowing those trends. And my suggestion would be to, test as quickly in those trends and see if they work for you, because it may be that your competitors are doing the right thing or the wrong thing, or it's just right for them. So I know in my space in e-commerce, everybody wants to copy Amazon and Target, but obviously they have a lot more money to spend on testing, and you never see them actually change their campaigns dramatically. It's always this iterative process. They're always adding something to the campaign. Target eventually took away the name of their logo and used that circle. Did anyone even notice? It's just slowly been changing over time.
Totally. Oh, go ahead. You're going to ask me another question, or
no? I don't know if you wanted to mention anything really. Yeah,
sure. I think just kind of maybe some of my tips. Is that what you're
absolutely
for here? Cool. I think goals are really important when you're working with a client, especially, and even for your own marketing campaigns as a sole agency. Really, what are your goals? To kind of make sure that those are clearly defined at the beginning of any kind of engagement or campaign, whether they're KPIs, like, do you want to see a certain amount of followers? Do you want to see a certain amount of tweets or posts or interactions? Do you want to see click-throughs on a coupon? So just make sure that everybody is very much aware of the goals ahead of time. I mean, even if you're doing an event, we did a very large activation for Samsung at South by Southwest. And for them, it's really important to, one, obviously social mentions and social interactions, but also people actually coming through the event. So, we were very aware of our number before we started the whole process. And we kept that in mind with every part of the project. Like, we knew we had to have a space that could fit at least 7,000 people, because that is how many people they wanted to come. We ended up having 11, so that was great. We exceeded their expectations.
Wow.
Just definitely setting those goals ahead of time so there's no surprises. I also think that this can get lost in the shuffle when you have a campaign going. But just really make sure that you set your listening tools up ahead of time, or however you're going to measure these results. Make sure that you've got those tools in place ahead of time, because we actually learned, the hard way. Sometimes you get caught in planning everything else, and those measuring tools aren't set. Kind of what I was talking about, that 7-day versus 30-day information. That could be a real bummer when you've got to present at the end to the client, and you're like, oh, I didn't capture everything.
Lots of screenshots.
Exactly. Lots of screenshots, lots of capturing of everything. And then I think most lastly, obviously listen to your results. This is all about optimization and improvement. So really, what happened? What can we learn from this? What can we do better next time? And hopefully there is a next time, and they let you improve upon it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I see this so much in the SaaS space, because I do, some optimization for landing pages, or actually helps a lot of people out on Clarity, answering questions about how to improve that that engagement in their SaaS app, and somehow you have to make it sexy a little bit. Just getting them to sign up for your financial app may not be the most sexy thing, but you have to figure out a way to create some engagement. But not only on the advertising side, but also on the user onboarding side. You mentioned a lot of micro conversions. You need to get them to click on the ad. You need to get them to maybe fill out a form, download the app, and then that's only the first part. You need to get them to actually use the app. Mm-hmm. That onboarding process and that engagement, that's really where you win the customer over. So we can go into many details about that and how the SaaS onboarding process works. But you offer some really great information on your blog. Let's tell people how they can, what you offer and how they can find out more about you.
Sure. Well, if you go to digitalflash.com, you could really find all of our social media, all of our case studies, our blog, some of the past thought leadership events that we have done. I'm at Sarah J.N. Walker and on Twitter, and then we're also at DFlashNYC on Twitter. And, those are great ways to kind of see what we're up to, and we always love helping people out that are trying to start out. So, if people want to drop me an email or a tweet, I'm always happy to kind of get on the line and just say what I've learned. We started this company from scratch, bootstrapping it all the way, and we're here kind of 5 years later. So I have some battle scars to show and some stories to tell.
Very, very cool. Let's close by telling people what would be one thing that you would tell marketers to do to take their website, their conversion rates, or their engagement to the next level.
Sure. I think we talk a lot about optimizing and listening to trends in the marketplace. And as marketers, we're always very excited by shiny new objects. We're like, oh, today it's influencer marketing. Today it's wearable tech. Today it's big data, like whatever that buzzword is, we marketers just want to jump on it and go running. Mm-hmm. And I would say, it's very important to stay true to the core values of your company. Those big trends are always going to be there, and you should definitely not be afraid of iteration and change and being flexible and nimble. But, don't forget about your core values as well, because that's what makes you different, and that's what makes you a special brand or product or company or service that you offer. So stay true to yourself, but also don't be afraid of change.
Awesome. I think it was a great answer. Thanks a lot for your time. Thank you for watching the Marketing Optimization Podcast with Alex Designs. Please remember to subscribe to all of the videos in my YouTube channel. Thank you.